Welcome everybody to this press conference, and sorry for the slight delay. This press conference taking place ahead of the first meeting of the EU-UK Parliamentary Partnership Assembly, which kicks off this afternoon here in Brussels at 2:30 Brussels time. You will find more information on the Assembly on our website. And here with me, I have the chairs of the European Parliament and the UK Parliament's delegations to the Assembly, Ms. Nathalie Loiseau and Sir Oliver Heald. We will start with some introductory remarks from their side, and then we can move on to question. Interpretation is also available in French. Madame Loiseau, you want to kick off?
I think that I'm so pleased to have our British colleagues coming to Brussels that I would start by welcoming warmly my friend Sir Oliver and give him the floor first as our guest.
Well, can I thank you for welcoming us to this historic occasion. It's good to talk, and for some years now we haven't had the opportunity as parliamentarians of Westminster and the European Parliament to do that. And I think it's long overdue. I'd like to thank you for all the very hard work that you and your team and the team here at the European Parliament have put in to get to the point where we can have this first meeting. We have a very lively delegation from the United Kingdom, looking forward to making many contributions. And I know the same is true of the members of the European Parliament. In fact, when I was here a month ago, it was a very warm welcome, and I think we felt there was a lot to talk about. Obviously, we are doing this as parliamentarians, and I think many of us are hoping that our governments will talk a lot too, and hopefully overcome their disagreements. But anyway, it's marvellous to be here. Thank you so much for inviting us and for hosting the first plenary.
Oh, well, my turn. Well, I'm really delighted that finally this Parliamentary Partnership Assembly starts. And I think that indeed this dialogue between parliamentarians is necessary and maybe long overdue. We want to have constructive relations with the United Kingdom. The Russian invasion of Ukraine shows that we are stronger working together against common threats to our values and our democracies. The Parliamentary Partnership Assembly is a chance to bring, I would say, a human dimension and refresh EU-UK relations as it opens up a much-needed parliamentary dimension in our relationship. The post-Brexit partnership has too often been driven by media briefings and institutional press releases. This new avenue of dialogue offers the opportunity, I would say, to blow away the Brexit cobwebs and bring our parliaments closer together in respect and cooperation. The PPA also has an institutional function to scrutinize the Partnership Council and provide recommendations to its work. Citizens and businesses on both sides of the channel need certainty and a forum through which to raise their concerns about the post-Brexit agreements and their implementation. As democratically elected representatives, we are uniquely placed to raise concerns and seek solutions. We owe it to our citizens and our businesses because the consequences of Brexit affect many of them. The agenda for meeting provides an insight into the many areas where joint cooperation is in the interests of our citizens, whether on energy or Ukraine. On energy, there is much we can do to cooperate, to reduce our dependency on fossil fuel imports from third countries who would use our dependencies against us. At the same time, cooperation on renewable energy in the North Sea and elsewhere can help us to tackle climate change, a shared objective. On Ukraine and indeed in other theatres, globally, EU-UK coordination on sanctions, aid, defence and security matters is imperative. Here and in other areas, the PPA could provide a platform to discuss more enhanced and structured cooperation, while of course respecting the sovereign rights of both parties. And I will talk about Northern Ireland and the protocol because it's again in the news, and I'm sure that you have questions, so I might preempt your questions and provide my answers. Faced with the common external threats I described, it is more important than ever that EU allies and partners abide by agreements and international law. Now is not the time to create divisions, to create artificial crises. These divisions and crises would be welcomed by those in third countries who are hostile to our values and our democracies. Only joint common solutions and dialogue will work. The protocol on Ireland and Northern Ireland of the Withdrawal Agreement is an integral part of our relationship. It is the solution found with the current UK government in order to protect the 1998 Belfast Agreement in all its dimensions, and therefore avoid a hard border on the island of Ireland, while protecting the integrity of the EU single market. What people need the most is engagement, constructive spirit, stability and predictability. We remain united that there can be no unilateral decision. There cannot be a renegotiation on something that we negotiated together, agreed together, that our European Parliament gave consent to. But of course, we remain open to discourse and solutions about how to ensure it is implemented effectively. I would like to express my strong support to the intensive efforts deployed by Maroš Šefčovič in order to address practical issues in a very pragmatic and open manner. I sincerely hope that flexibility, pragmatism, engagement is shown on the other side too. And now we are open to your questions.
Thank you very much. We'll start with the Times, I believe. Bruno, go ahead.
Bruno Waterfield, Times of London, I should say here, I suppose. My questions will be both to Sir Oliver and to Natalie, common European questions. The first one is this Assembly has been a long time in getting up and running, and we know that one of the first areas which will close down over Northern Ireland Protocol, should it come to that, will be areas of cooperation like that. So will this Assembly, will this be the first and last meeting if legislation is brought forward next week? And should it be, given the things you are saying? And again, to both of you, if you both agree that in the face of what's going on in Ukraine at the moment, that continuing constructive negotiations is the best way forward, then surely, as Britain shouldn't table legislation overriding the protocol, the EU should also review its mandate for Mr. Šefčovič. Thank you.
You want to start?
Shall I go first? The Northern Ireland Protocol, of course, regulates two directions of travel for goods, and one of them is north-south and the other is east-west. On north-south, the flow of goods is reasonable, and I think most people would say that that's working. On east-west, there has been a recognition by Commissioner Šefčovič that there's a need for some changes, the medicines, which is a change in the law, and many other flexibilities. And there are discussions which I believe can reach a conclusion. And what it needs is both sides of the discussion to move everything that they possibly can to reach agreement. And I think if we could do that and get through the problems with the withdrawal agreement, then we could cooperate on so many things. I mean, if you think about what we've done on Ukraine, it's been a marvellous thing to have cooperated across the West so well on sanctions, on humanitarian aid, and on military provision to Ukraine, on an issue like energy, which Nathalie Loiseau mentioned a moment ago. I mean, there's a huge amount we could do there in the North Sea and also on energy cooperation. So we need to get beyond this, and for that it needs a redoubling of efforts. And that's certainly what I think, and I hope that it can happen. In terms of whether the flexibilities that are needed are a change in the law, well, obviously on the medicines it did require a change in the law. But often with the law, it's about the implementation, the flexibility of implementation. And I think there's a lot could be done there. And the leading academic, Dr. Katie Hayward from Queen's University in Belfast, she came here to the European Parliament to a very good meeting of the International Trade Committee, and she set it all out, and there was a clear landing strip for an agreement. She pointed out the areas of difficulty, and I felt, watching that and seeing the way in which it was chaired with Ben Langer and members of the Commission were present as well, that it was clear that an agreement could be reached. So let's see if we can do that.
Well, I would add that the protocol was negotiated at length. It took a lot of time between the two parts to find a solution, which is a compromise, of course. I'm not saying it is perfect, but I'm saying it was the product of very intense discussions between the UK and the EU. It didn't come at a glance, and it was celebrated by our British partners as well when the Withdrawal Agreement was signed. It is a fact that there are things that are not going as they were going before. There is a name for this, and this is Brexit. Brexit has consequences. We cannot cancel Brexit. We fully respect the decision of the British people. But you cannot say that it will go exactly as it was going before. What we are seeing now is that one of the difficulties in the trade between East and West is the absence of predictability. For businesses, it's not that they cannot send goods to Northern Ireland. It's not that there are tariffs or quotas. It's that they don't know what's going to take place in the coming weeks and months. And when you're a business, you need predictability, otherwise you choose another market. And if the North-South trade is going well, it's simply because Northern Ireland belongs to the single market for goods. If I read statistics correctly, the economic situation in Northern Ireland is good right now. And the concerns of people, when I read the polls in Northern Ireland, are about purchasing power, are about energy prices, are about climate change. I'm not sure they are focusing that much on being against the protocol. Having said that, you are talking about flexibility. I think the proposals made by Maroš Šefčovič went the extra mile. You have to remember that it was not an easy sale for him within the College of Commissioners and within this European Parliament. And on medicines, we changed the legislation. We voted in favour of an exception for medicines entering Northern Ireland from Great Britain. And it was not an easy sale either. I had to go to my colleagues and explain why we were doing this exception to our single market. So I think flexibility has been very present on our side, and we will listen carefully to what Maroš Šefčovič tells us this afternoon, to the level of discussion in depth at a political level about our proposals with the British side.
Thanks. I see we'll take one of the questions online. I see that Jennifer Rankin from The Guardian has her hand up. So, Jennifer, if you can hear us, please, and can connect, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I hope you can hear me now, and thank you for taking my question online. First of all, to Sir Oliver Heald, do you support a unilateral suspension of the Northern Ireland Protocol? Is that something you would vote for if the government brought forward legislation? And secondly, to Nathalie Loiseau, you spoke about the timeliness of the protocol discussion in the context of Ukraine. But surely, given this is a life and death situation, war on Europe, war in the European continent, the UK and the EU would still find a way to cooperate despite any disagreement, clash over the Northern Ireland Protocol. I just wanted you to, would it not be possible for the EU to compartmentalise the issues and to work with the UK on sanctions, even if there was an ongoing dispute on the Northern Ireland Protocol? Thank you.
I think it'd be a great pity if this opportunity to reach agreement isn't taken on both sides of the discussion, because nobody wants to see a deepening of the problems between the EU and the United Kingdom. Nobody wants to see that. We want to see an agreement. But we do have a particular situation in Northern Ireland, which is the reason that we had to make special arrangements, and that is that it is a very special place and has its sensitivities. And if you look at the problem of cost of living, which was mentioned by Nathalie Loiseau, I mean, that is a problem which in deprived communities in Belfast can lead to a dangerous cocktail. And one of the things that's being said is that it's partly because of the protocol by some that there is this cost of living crisis. Well, now, of course, I would never argue that. But when Dr. Hayward, who's an expert in this and the position in Belfast, when she gave evidence to the committee here, she was very clear that there was a danger, and her plea to the European Parliament was to say, look, it's not your fault Brexit took place, but you can make a difference in Belfast by having a positive approach to flexibilities. And that's something that I would echo. I think both sides need to go that extra mile, perhaps, Natalie.
Well, to answer your question, indeed it is not a moment for a clash, and I hope everybody understands it. Indeed, it's not a moment to be isolated or to be seen not supporting international rules-based order at a moment where we criticize Russia for not respecting international law. It's not a moment to be divided among allies. It's not a moment to create a crisis out of practical issues that can be dealt with in goodwill and good faith together, with no unilateral move, and with addressing the practicalities the way Maroš Šefčovič has been doing, going several times to Northern Ireland, talking to all stakeholders, respectfully acknowledging things that could be improved and coming up with solutions. I'm not clear yet on what the British answer to his proposals is.
If you remember, Nat, if I could just say, it was made absolutely clear that it wasn't a take it or leave it set of proposals. It was a basis for discussion. And all that I'm saying as somebody who wants to see a resolution and us to move on into very cooperative engagement is, let's see if we can reach an agreement.
I hope so, anyway.
Thank you. I think we have time for one final question, and we can take Joe Barnes, please. Go ahead.
Thank you. Joe Barnes from the Daily Telegraph, again, of London. Thank you for doing this. So, Sir Oliver, if memory serves me right, you're a member of the Queen's Council.
Yep.
So would Britain tabling legislation and blaming the kind of proportionate implementation of the protocol be legally justified, do you think, for overriding it? And then to Natalie, you seem to be making a lot of linkages between Northern Ireland and Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin invaded another country. Do you think that's the right kind of analogy to be making when he has marched into someone else's sovereign country, and we're talking about as the protocol sets out, Northern Ireland is part of kind of the United Kingdom in the protocol? And then to you, what is more important, the Northern Ireland Protocol or the Good Friday Agreement? Thank you.
I mean, I think in terms of the legal side of it, I'm not really going to give you a legal opinion. I apologise for that, but I think it would need to be something I'd researched a bit more fully. But having said that, the question of whether or not these changes can be made unilaterally isn't really at issue, because Article 16 does allow for it. But it would be something which would be very damaging to, I think, to the relationship, certainly in the short term, if it comes to that. And I would much prefer an agreement to be reached. And of course, it would be a question in terms of legality, if that did happen, of whether you could criticise legally a decision of the UK Parliament which have been made on legislation, and that's very difficult to do. So I think that's as far as I can take it, but my plea is for a settlement to be reached.
Well, to answer your questions, don't try to make headlines with things I have not said. I'm not making a parallel. I've been to Ukraine twice in recent weeks, and I fully measure the suffering of this country and the atrocities committed by an authoritarian regime. And my respect for the British democracy is so big that I decided to be co-chair of this Parliamentary Partnership Assembly out of a will to make our partnership stronger. What I'm saying is that pacta sunt servanda, and the reputation of a country is proportionate to its capacity to stick to its commitments. And I think it's important now more than ever. There are adjustments that can be made on practical terms, the ones that were proposed by Maroš Šefčovič, within the framework of the protocol. I don't think that any unilateral move to get out of the protocol would be a wise one, neither for people in Northern Ireland nor for the UK as a strong member of the free world and of an alliance of democracies.
I don't know if I could just add that Nathalie Loiseau is the chair of the Defence Committee of the Parliament here, and was very involved in bringing together the countries around sanctions, and also in terms of providing military support to Ukraine. So I think she's an example of us all working together to try and achieve an aim. And I think that we are very committed to making the most of this partnership and being able to do some of the things on energy, on civil issues to do with citizens' rights and other areas where, you know, we can make life better for our citizens and for my country and the European Union.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I see that actually BBC has one question, so I thought we can put them through. Jessica, do you want to go ahead? Yes, please.
Hello.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. Go ahead.
Hello. Yeah, just a quick one. I just wanted to clear up with Sir Oliver. Do you think this legislation, if it comes forward, would get through the UK Parliament? Thank you.
Well, first thing to say is I think everybody in the UK Parliament is hoping for an agreement and pressing for it. And so the question is whether an agreement can be reached. If it can, obviously there would be no need for legislation to take any unilateral action, although there might be a need for something to deal with any agreement. But having said that, it does depend on the circumstances and on how the negotiations go. But I mean, I think you'll hear today that everybody on the UK side in government is at least pushing for the negotiations to succeed, and I hope they do.
Thank you very much. Now I believe our participants have to run off to the next agenda item. So I'd like to thank you all very much for coming here, and thank you to our speakers, and we'll see you next time. Have a nice afternoon.
Thank you.